Welcome to Chapter 4, Carbohydrate, Sugar, Starch, Glycogen, and Fiber. Fiber in Your Body by Professor Tammy. Learning objectives. Describe the body's handling of glucose.
Fiber may help decrease blood cholesterol. So there is your liver, and there is your gallbladder and intestine. The liver synthesizes bile using cholesterol. So it takes cholesterol and creates bile. So that's what the liver does. It takes cholesterol and creates bile. And then once it creates bile, the bile is stored in the gallbladder. Bile is secreted into the intestine to aid in the digestion of fat. So it's secreted into the small intestine to aid in the digestion of fat. So there's two scenarios. One is if you eat a high fiber diet versus if you eat a low fiber diet. So let's go through the high fiber diet first. In the high fiber diet, the fiber binds to bile and both are excreted into the feces. So it goes through the poop. And then less cholesterol is reabsorbed from the remaining bile. So if you eat higher fiber foods, the fiber binds to the bile that's made of cholesterol, and they are excreted through the feces. So less cholesterol is reabsorbed. So when it gets excreted through your feces, when it goes out of your body, that means there's less cholesterol in your body. So blood levels of cholesterol are reduced. So when there's less cholesterol in your body, there's less in the blood. Okay, now let's look at the low fiber diet. So if you don't eat as much fiber-rich foods, so less fiber is presented to bind to bile. So if you don't have that much fiber, it doesn't bind to bile. So less bile is excreted into the feces. And remember, bile is made of cholesterol. More cholesterol is reabsorbed from the remaining bile. So when it doesn't leave with the feces, when the bile doesn't leave with the feces through fiber, it stays in your body. So blood levels of cholesterol are elevated. So you have more bile, more cholesterol in your body. So you have more cholesterol in your body. Okay? One way fiber in food may lower cholesterol in the blood. So we're going to go over this in a different way. High fiber food, more cholesterol in the bile is carried out of the body. So the liver uses blood cholesterol to make bile. And then the gallbladder stores the bile. The intestine, the bile aids intestine bound to fiber and colon. And then the fiber and bile excretes in the feces, in the poop. So, and then it kind of goes in a cycle. So a little bit cholesterol from the bile reabsorbs into the blood. Okay, low fiber food. More cholesterol from bile is reabsorbed and returned to the bloodstream. So if you don't eat as much fibrous foods, liver uses blood cholesterol to make bile. That's the same as this. Gallbladder stores bile, same as this. Intestine bile aids digestion, just like this. But since you don't have as much fiber, very little of the bile is excreted, because bile binds. It kind of hangs out. It catches on to the fiber and then leaves. So if you don't have enough fibrous foods, the cholesterol goes back to your bloodstream. Digestive tract health. So as far as diverticulosis, these are like little sacs in the large intestine. And sometimes, when things get stuck in these pockets, inflammation can occur. What happens is, in the past, about 30 years ago, they said, oh, people with diverticulosis tuberculosis shouldn't have any seeds because it can get stuck in the pocket. Right now, the recommendation is you can still have some, but just not as much. And there's also another study that says, these can also be stress induced as well. A wheat plant in a single kernel of wheat. According to the dietary guidelines for Americans, the recommendation is to have at least half a daily grains should be whole. So what this means is, remember the My Plate? Half of it. This is grains, proteins, fruits, and vegetables, and milk. So they're saying, as far as this section is concerned, half of this, at least half of it, should be whole grain, which includes whole grain, brown rice, and such, because that gives you more fiber. Okay, there's also flour parts from the wheat. For parts of the kernel, the germ, that's where most of the fatty part is, which is delicious too. Endosperm is here. The bran, which is here. And also the husk, which is here, which is outside. Find the real whole grain foods. Not every choice must be 100% whole grain. Food labels, like if it says high fiber, brown color, substitutes, they're usually whole grain. And also some cereals also have whole grain. So here are some foods that are listed. Amaranth, a grain of the ancient Aztec people. Barley. Buckwheat, not buckwheat from Captain America, buckwheat, the plant. Bulgur wheat, corn. Millet, that's often that's a grain from West Africa when I lived there, so it's pretty tasty and very nutritious too. Oats, like oatmeal. Quinoa is the only grain that has protein, that has complete protein, that has all the essential amino acids. So that's kind of cool, and it comes in red, white, and black, and also tricolor. You cook it just like rice. Rice includes brown, red, and other colors. I've even seen black rice. For a while, it was very popular in Lower Manhattan to purchase different color rice, and it's very fibrous too. There's rye, sorghum, tough, triticale, wheat of various kind, and wild rice. And I love wild rice. It's so delicious too, especially with the right seasoning. Enrichment of refined grains. U.S. Enrichment Act of 1942. They included iron, thiamine, riboflavin, and niacin into the food. The reason is, prior to that, people were having deficiencies in these vitamins. So they decided to put these nutrients into staple foods like bread, like wheat, flour, bread, rice, things that people eat every day. So this will make sure that most people wouldn't be deficient of these nutrients. And then in 1996, folate was added in. Whole grain foods are superior to enriched grain foods. But it doesn't mean that, you should not eat enriched grain foods at all. Vitamin B6, magnesium, zinc, fiber, and phytochemicals. And these are all very good for you, and they're in whole grain foods. sometimes people live in areas that they don't always have certain foods because it's more of a food desert. You have to go out of your way to buy healthier foods. So, as a nutritionist and someone who deals with um, people from various economic backgrounds, you have to understand what foods are available for your population before you recommend certain foods for people. Bread labels compare. So let's compare these three bread labels. Let's see which one's the most healthy ones, or the one with the most fiber. Do you think it's natural wheat bread, multigrain honey fiber, or whole grain wheat bread? Which one do you think? I remember past students would say the whole wheat one because we keep talking about the whole wheat in this chapter. So let's look at the natural wheat bread first. It has about 2% dietary fiber. And in the ingredients is unbleached, enriched wheat flour. So, remember we mentioned enriched. It's not as good as whole wheat, but it's still okay. It's not something to totally avoid too. So that's about 2%. That's very little. A little fiber. Let's look at the whole grain, the whole wheat. People are like, yeah, whole wheat, yeah, 100%. So, dietary fiber is 8%. Okay, let's look at the ingredients. Unbrominated stone ground 100% whole wheat flour and crushed wheat. So that's why it has more dietary fiber than the natural wheat bread. Okay, let's look at the middle one, multigrain honey fiber. Wow, 16%. It's like double of the whole wheat. How could that be? It has unbleached enriched wheat flour, which is not 100% whole wheat flour. How could this be? So let's look at the other ingredients. So, cellulose. Remember, it's a fiber. Okay, honey is not fiber. Salt is not fiber. Barley is. And it has millet, corn, oats, soybean flour, brown rice, and flaxseed. Wow, it has a whole bunch of fiber in there. So, we should not just look at, oh, hello, 100% whole wheat flour. We should also look at the ingredients that all these foods have. So remember how I always mention, look at the ingredients. Look at the ingredients.
See you soon. And remember to read the book.